Right, next up we have Kaile Zagger. Kaile is the COO of Aspirate Women's Health. She's been a healthcare executive for over 20 years for Fortune 500 companies before joining Aspirate just this year as COO. She's speaking with us today about changing the story through transformation, a new paradigm in the early detection of ovarian cancer. Welcome, Kaile.
Hi, Anna. So I am more than thrilled to be here today with you, and thank you so much for including us in this. I too am going to start with a story of a patient and why early detection of ovarian cancer is so incredibly important in the FemTech movement and in the healthcare systems in general. This remains an unacceptably deadly disease and has had very little progression over the last 40 years. There is a story, and she's actually my mother, of a woman at 38 years old who presented with all of the signs and symptoms of ovarian cancer, which ironically present outside of the gynecology type symptoms: frequent urination, bloating, lower back pain. So women with ovarian cancer signs and symptoms tend to spend anywhere from 18 to 24 months bouncing from anywhere from 6 to 8 different specialties with very vague signs and symptoms that are not debilitating. So in that process, the disease is progressing and the misdiagnoses continue to happen. The majority of women who end up with ovarian cancer are diagnosed at late stage. And if you're diagnosed at stage 4 in this disease, your chance of 5-year survival is 17%. So early detection of this disease, and I would argue more than any other disease, is absolutely paramount. And unfortunately, the standards of care that we have in early detection of ovarian cancer currently are suboptimal and definitely suboptimal for certain ethnicities, which we'll talk about today. So the mission of Aspire Women's Health is to change the paradigm of all gynecological disease, beginning with ovarian cancer and then tackling the most difficult gynecological diseases from there. So the next that we're under research and development with right now is endometriosis, and we're going to continue to go after the most difficult gynecological diseases from there. So very excited to be here today and to talk about the importance of awareness around ovarian cancer and the work that Aspire Women's Health is doing to get in front of this disease and change the story. So we're missing something. Almost 2 million new cancer cases are diagnosed every year in the United States. Over 600,000 people will lose their lives, and that's over 1,500 every single day. 38 women die from ovarian cancer every day. There's 21,000 new cases, 13,000 plus deaths, and the 5-year survival rate remains the most horrific and grave amongst the gynecological cancers. So ovarian cancer, it remains one of the most deadly cancers and very much for women. So it's the 4th leading cause of death amongst women, and again, remains unacceptably high. If you look at the survival rate of the diseases, the cancer diseases that have been very fortunate to have the research and development dollars invested, breast and prostate have moved very high onto the curve of survival rates, and ovarian still suffers with the 40-year paradigm. So what is wrong, and how are we not looking at this in a way that might really change the story for early detection? As we talked about in the beginning of the presentation, the signs and symptoms of ovarian cancer present outside of the gynecologist's office. This begs the question of a bit of a transformation in the healthcare systems in totality, that this horizontal view of the woman, the holistic view of the woman, and ensuring that the non-oncologic providers are aware of the family history, the genetic predisposition, the risk of ovarian cancer, the signs and symptoms, is something that we take very seriously in our education and commercial pathways, to educating these physicians to understand frequent urination may be a sign and symptom of ovarian cancer, dependent on the family history and the genetic predisposition of the woman, and that looking holistically at these various parts is enabling us to be able to construct this very complex puzzle of ovarian cancer. Right now, we have a vertical healthcare system. Specialists are trained in what they are trained to identify and what they're trained to treat. And ovarian cancer is one of those diseases that really does present outside of a lot of the true gynecological issues. So we're working very much to ensure that education amongst these other physicians is first and foremost in our pathway. Late stage diagnosis. So 15,000 each year is the leading cause of this gynecological death. And as I mentioned, it's the fourth cause of all cancer deaths. So unacceptably high, and no change to this in over 40 years. And the rationale for ovarian cancer early detection is that if we're able to detect these cancers in stage 1 and stage 2, you can see the survival rates are incredibly powerful versus that of stage 3 and stage 4. So our mission is to be able to change the story by getting in front of this disease, giving women a chance of the 90% or 70% survival rate, and really mitigating late stage diagnosis of this disease. So how are we looking to do that? So we understand that educating women on the signs and symptoms is critically important, and a direct to consumer component of our business model is definitely first and foremost. The providers are critical. So this is no longer about educating the gynecologist, the OBGYN, the GYN oncologist. We understand that because of the signs and symptoms and the importance of genetics and ovarian cancer, that looking at the providers and its totality is also a critical part of our commercialization and our go-to-market. Payers. We still understand that we're struggling with preventative mechanisms, and I'm sure many of the panelists today will speak about this. We're still struggling with prevention being covered by insurance carriers. And in fact, we have a very difficult time with some patients saying, if it's not covered, then I don't know that I can afford to do the test. So we're actively working with the government. We're actively working with our consultants to ensure proper education of payers is part of our paradigm. The health system. So recently we've deployed our health system strategy and ensure the importance of holistically looking at ovarian cancer and the management of those patients all the way back, taking a look at their history, taking a look at their genetic composition, and then how they present in signs and symptoms. We understand the importance of doing that within the health systems and ensuring that they're aligned as partners as we look to tackle this disease. Industry. We are one of the only companies globally that has focused on ovarian cancer and early detection and is working to radically improve the current paradigm that is the standard of care, which has really led us to the place of most women being diagnosed with stage 3 and stage 4 ovarian cancer. And then society. So we look at how African American women present with this disease. It's very different than Caucasian women. We look at how African American women are detected with ovarian cancer. Their signs and symptoms present differently. The current standard of care does not pick up ovarian cancer in women of ethnicities like it does the Caucasian woman. So ensuring that this call to action societally is present and paramount in our commercialization strategy is also a very important pillar for us. So the problem statement. So how are we thinking about reduction of risk? The biggest problem statement that we have is that women don't know their history. It's not first and foremost in their mind, and they don't understand the connection between breast and ovarian cancer, between certain genetic predispositions that are linked to this might mean I'm going to have breast cancer, to the fact that that's also putting them at risk for ovarian cancer. So again, it's very important to us as we continue to move into the commercialized space that the education of this disease and the awareness components across all 6 of those verticals is first and foremost. As I mentioned, the current standard of care is inadequate. So currently we have physical exam and transvaginal ultrasound. Then we're also using, it is off-label, the CA-125 to understand whether or not ovarian cancer might be present inside of the women. And then biopsy is not medically appropriate for ovarian cancer. So still very limited in what we can do from an early detection perspective. So Aspire Women's Health has been actively working for the last 5 years. We have one product that is absolutely disruptive for adnexal masses, and understanding, is that mass something that the GYN oncologist needs to handle because the woman is at risk of ovarian cancer, and ensuring that she ends up in the hands of the right woman. We also have a proprietary genetics panel that is targeted for gynecological disease that allows providers to get in front of this disease and understand, are we at risk and how do we move as quickly as possible? And then we're more than excited and coming up on a very disruptive product launch this October that is going to solve for all adnexal masses. So we have something now that will solve for even the benign masses, and helping the providers and the health systems understand, do I have a possible risk here of ovarian cancer? And if I decide to wait on an adnexal mass, when do I need to start to think about this in a different fashion? So actively working on getting to this early detection screening mechanism, but very excited about the products that we do have in the market currently. So the power of now and the power of the future. So we fundamentally believe at Aspire Women's Health in the power of genetics and ensuring that you understand the power of the future. So even if that adnexal mass is benign now, it doesn't mean we're not at risk for ovarian cancer in the future. And the coupling of this solution and ensuring that we're providing the provider, the payers, the patient with all of that knowledge to know, are we at risk for this horrific disease, and how do we want to get in front of it so we don't end up in late stage diagnosis, is first and foremost to what we're trying to accomplish here with our solution set of products. We believe we will change the story in this, and we're working hard to ensure that all 6 of those pillars are actively educated on the horrific nature of this disease and the importance of early detection and the combination of family history, genetics, and then the solution for any of those signs and symptoms that start to pop up. One of the most proud moments that I've had in the last 6 months is our construction of our patient advisory board and putting a chief spokeswoman in place who is a PhD and also an ovarian cancer patient. So at Aspire Women's Health, the voice of the patient and the voice of the physician are first and foremost in how we develop our products and how we think about tackling this disease and ensuring we stay on a track to get in front of early detection of the disease. So thank you so much for letting me share some of what we're doing and the hard work we're putting into this disease. It's more than an honor to be here. And I look forward to question and answer.
Thank you so much, Kaile. That was fantastic. And we've heard some really interesting innovations today from people who are creating some truly unique solution-driven products that are directly putting the patient at the center of design. And that's all about what this section is focused on. So